Well. Good morning and welcome to SatHERday's with Shalimar J. Who is Shalimar J? That's me, your host. And as always, I am so grateful that you decided to tune in on this morning. The topic for today is one that I am actually really excited about, honestly. It is one that's dealing with coping. Um, and I am also going to address some questions that came through the website. Matter of fact, while I am at that point, let me just say this. You have an opportunity to reach out to me to get my insight or my view on specific topics. If there are some things that you're dealing with and you're wanting someone's insight, and that someone is me, some sense of direction or advice, feel free to go to www, it's right there on the screen, .girlembraceit.com. And you will go to the menu and literally you'll go to contact, and there you will put all of your information and you will select the appropriate bullet point and send it to me. Type in there whatever it is. And if you want to remain anonymous, then I will make sure that I do that. If you want, your name mentioned for whatever the reason, just let me know. But most importantly, make sure you put into the system what it is that you want me to give you my insight on. And I will definitely do that, as I am going to do on today. So now going back to the topic. The topic is dealing with coping, as I said earlier. And what I got is, let us not cope until we code. And when I'm talking about coding, I'm talking about the term that is used in medicine where a person has died. There is no heartbeat, there are no vitals. It We don't have them anymore. And sometimes this applies to anyone, man, woman, girl, boy, child, but I'm speaking specifically to women. We have been conditioned, and then some of us just by nature, to cope, deal with stuff, right? Accept things, allow things to overtake us, but don't allow them to be shown on the outside because we have to put on this perfect poised face. I'm strong. I can deal with these things. And it ends up being a situation where all of that stuff is suppressed, whatever it is: anxiety, excitement, right? Pain, aggravation, guilt, whatever it is, we suppress it because we're coping with what we are feeling. And as time progresses, we find ourselves ill, our bodies shutting down, having nervous breakdowns, shaking all of the time, on heavy medication so that we can cope with what we have been dealing with the help and the aid of medicine. And then to some extreme degree, for some people, it's the death of you. You have coped until you coded. And we've got to get to a place where we are not allowing circumstance, situation, emotions to wear on us, to tear us down, to cause us to have no more on the inside. There's no more of you to give. You have nothing left, even for yourself. We can't allow that to be our reality. We can't get so caught up and accustomed to or used to just dealing with stuff and just letting it be. that it becomes the death of us. The way that you are dealing with it, woman of God, is the wrong way. There's a way that's right that will allow us to cope, to deal, to handle, to address situations, circumstances, emotion, and come out on top because the victory is ours. But there is a wrong way to cope. There's a wrong way to deal. There's a wrong way to handle situations and circumstances and emotions. And that is when we become internally dead. That is when we get to a place where we're like walking zombies, like the walking dead. I am literally alive, but internally dead. And that is a very, very, very low, dark, and dangerous place to be. So let us not cope until we code. Let that stuff go. Even if, as I had said a few moments ago, even if it's something positive like excitement, right? Let's think about a soda, a can of soda, okay? Bubbly. And when it's cold, usually it's refreshing. You shake it up, or not, I'm not even gonna say shake it up. Let's say you're so excited about getting this can of soda and you get it, you grab it as let's say a kid and they run, right? And they're running to go sit down and open it up, but you know you're running. Now you have shaken up the soda can. What's gonna happen when you open the soda can? An explosion, because all this excitement was being held inside of this can and it's got to get out. And when you open it, there's this explosion. So the same thing can happen when you are, kind of coping with your excitement. It's like, okay, all right, I got this. I'm dealing with it. I'm excited about it. All right, I'm just not going to show my excitement. I'm going to hold it in and then, coping with it the best way that I can. And then when you finally let it out, yeah, you get this release, but you held it in and you let it out at the wrong time. How can you let excitement out at the wrong time? Well, if you're experiencing a moment and the people around you are excited and they're like obviously, you know, giving you their support, pushing you and like rooting you on, and you don't reciprocate and it doesn't look like you are as excited as they are, that can be perceived the wrong way. And then it causes people to look at you in the wrong light. And when you privately let out your excitement because you were containing it, because you looked at it like, I'm just kind of coping with my excitement now and I'm kind of just, letting it be, you end up losing more than you did gain. So that's an example of how coping with excitement could end up being a negative thing. And there's so many other directions that I can go with that, because you can be excited about the wrong stuff too. Just because it's a positive emotion doesn't mean that it is positive in its nature and in its purpose, right? Sometimes, well, I won't even go there because I don't want to put that out there. But yes, you can be excited about the wrong thing, and that will not be pleasing to God. So don't mix up a positive emotion with a negative event and think that that negative intent or event becomes positive because you've mixed it with a typical positive emotion, because that's not necessarily the case, right? And this kind of ties into um, I have it here, what someone sent to me, and it's talking about crisis and how do you cope with crisis? Her question was, I am in the middle of a crisis, but how do I cope with my crisis and while I am in my crisis? And this might sound kind of corny. I wanted to say cliche, but what came to me when I read this request for insight was these very words: when in crisis, cry, sis. When in CRISIS, cry, CRY, sis, capital SIS. That's what I have for you. Crying is a form of release. I didn't say wallow in sorrow. I didn't say ball up in a ball in the corner of your bed and just cry because I'm just life is so. I didn't say that. That's not what I'm meaning. Don't lock yourself up in the closet, away from civilization, away from everybody you know and love. That's not what I'm saying. So don't get it twisted. Don't get it misconstrued. That is not what I am saying at all. What I'm saying is cry out to God. Let it go. I don't care how you sound. I don't care how much your face muscles hurt. Get that stuff out. Cry. Sis. Confuse the enemy because that's all that that is. When we are experiencing crisis, it is an event in our life that the devil asked God permission for to allow you to experience. And he allowed it because he knew that in the end you win. There is victory on the other side. You will make it. You will get through it. Girl, embrace it. Don't be afraid of crisis. Instead, cry, sis. I have had to do a whole lot of crying. I have cried so much I didn't even know I had tears left, and I'm not being funny. It's like, and sometimes I don't know if any of you have had this experience, but it's like, man, I done cried so much, I don't have no more tears. I have in the moment of crying, it was like I still had the action of a cry, right? Like I felt the cry. I felt the but wasn't another tear falling. I had been cried out, but I still had a cry on the inside of me. I've cried to points when I reached out to God and I had just let him know, Lord, this is how I feel about this. And this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm dealing with. I have no more strength. I cried myself to sleep. Well, I would rather say I cried and God put me to sleep. And it's one of those situations where I'm like, oh my God, what a cry can do for you. What a cry can do for me. What a cry has done for me. It has allowed me to be in a place of forgiveness, forgiving myself and others. I had to cry my way through a lot of stuff. But baby, let me tell you, girl, it works. When in crisis, cry, sis. That's what I have for you. That is how you cope that is how you deal with crisis, crying out to Him and trusting. him. I think I have been saying trust him for 8 months now, at least on the show. I feel like almost every show I'm saying trust him because that is so for real. Like, what is the purpose of going to God in prayer, talking to him, crying out to him, and then not trusting the process, not trusting in him, not trusting that he's going to make the provision? I know how it can be where you fear whether or not you actually hear God. Like, I've been there. Okay, I've prayed about something. I believe that I prayed to a God that is real. I believe that God heard my prayer. Now, I don't trust my ear. I don't know if the next move or instruction is like me or it's God. And I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to mess around and do the wrong thing. But can I tell you what helped me through that? What helped me get through that was the fact that I know that even though I may have heard wrong or made a mistake, God knows I only did that because I was trying to hear him. I reached out to him. I'm trying to go to the source and not depend on man, but depend on him. And I would much rather make a mistake thinking that I heard God than to make a mistake and never talk to him. And when I applied that philosophy to my processes from time to time as I went and learning more about God and how He speaks to me, learning when He's speaking. When I was going through that process, and then even, after that, I really had to, I really had to apply that so that I would remain sane and that I wouldn't continually blame myself for making a mistake because it wasn't intentional. It wasn't a mistake I made out of disobedience or just, choosing to do whatever I wanted to do, right? So that is very important and that is vital. The next question that came about is I thought about Donnie McClurkin. That's why I'm smiling at this moment because he's got that song Stand. And it basically the question was, how do I stand when all I feel like doing is falling? How? Well, you know what I just thought about when I was coming home a few days ago, and I recently had a procedure, and so I can't drive right now. And one of my children was driving me or us home, and we've got in the front of our house some plants, right? And flowers and bushes, right? And these particular plants or flowers, excuse me, lean in the direction of the sun. So, or rather, in the direction of where the sun is. And so, wherever it is able to find the sun, wherever the sun shines on it, it gravitates toward where it sees the sun at. And it leans according to where it receives the sun from. So sometimes the flower is like this and curved, sometimes it's straight up, sometimes it's leaning this way. It depends on where the sun is, but nonetheless, it depends on the sun to stand. And so the way that you stand when you feel all you feel like doing is falling is by making a declaration and a decision to lean on the Son. SON. Lean on the Son. The saying. That is where your strength comes from. That is where your pick me up comes from. That is where your source of energy is. The light shines in that direction. Go to Him. I promise you. It's like it's selfish, but it's not selfish. And what I mean by that is you are able to literally declare that the things you are dealing with that are wearing you down, that are weighing on you, that are causing strife and stress in your life, you can literally make somebody else responsible for dealing with that. You don't even have to deal with that stuff, even if you inflicted it on yourself. God, I'm taking this to you in prayer. I'm literally leaving my burdens right here. I'm giving this to you. This battle is not mine, it is yours. And you've got to believe that there is a God that can and will fight for you. You can't just say for the sake of saying, I'm gonna leave it in his hands and just imagine this, process and not believe in the process. You've got to believe wholeheartedly that God is handling this, that He literally took it and said, I am going to deal with it on your behalf and accept whatever comes out of it. Sometimes the end result is not what we expect or desire, but know that as long as you gave it to God and He has taken it in His hand, that whatever the end result is in His plan. And His plan is no error in His plan. His plan will always work. It's our plan that get in the way. And so hopefully, um, ladies, the insight that I've given and the suggestions that I've made will help you through times of crisis and despair, help you to stand tall and firm, and help you to figure out just how to deal with what it is that you are experiencing, but deal with it in such a way that it is pleasing to God, and it makes the devil mad. Don't be afraid to upset the enemy. He has no real power. The only power he has is what you give him. Don't fear the devil. Don't fear the enemy. There is no reason for us to. Now we're human, so there's some times where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm taking it back, and this is just like a lot. But as soon as you feel it, you got to let that thing go. He has no real power. It is deception. For you to believe that the devil has more power than your God does, or more power than God has actually in the word told you have over the enemy, that is because the devil has deceived you. He has no real power. You are the one who possesses the greater power. Greater is He that is in me, and it is He, God, that is talking about. He that is in you. The rest of it is He that is in the world. But if we just leave it at that, He that is in you is greater, period. And if you hold on to that, I got greatness on the inside. God has put power in my tongue, power over the enemy, over, meaning mine is greater. He is greater. There's nothing that the devil can do that supersedes God. If you continue to remind yourself of that, you will find yourself dealing with situations and crisis a lot better, but you also have to believe it. You must believe that your outlet is Him and your way out is Him. And you've got to cry out to Him, ask Him to let you out of your situation. even if your decisions put you there. He is such a gracious God. He is so merciful, a forgiving God. You got to believe that. You've got to believe it. You can't allow fear to start to make you question God's existence. Don't do it, sis. Girl, don't do it. Don't do it. Go to Him. Take it to Him in prayer. And I promise you, He will get you through. He has not failed me. And you've got to be patient. I learned this lesson myself some years ago. Sometimes when we're dealing with situations and circumstances, we go to God about it, granted, as we should, and we want Him to help us, and we don't want to have to wait long for the help to come or to see the manifestation of my prayer. And I had to literally be okay with time passing by. I had to be patient and wait on my blessing or wait on my deliverance or wait on whatever it was that I prayed to God for. And if it were a shift in, my circumstance, or if it was just like this blessing that I wanted, right? If it comes 10 years later, I got to be all right with that because God's timing is perfect. And I have experienced things where it was like, oh my gosh, I wanted this way back then, but if I got it then, it wouldn't have felt like it does now. Thank you, Lord, for allowing me to get what I wanted now. Patience is key, trust is paramount, faith is necessary. To God be the glory. So I will end here. We will come back on next week to talk a little bit more. But your scars, they are beautiful. Why? Because they are your testimony. Until next time, bye.